Okay, so next up we've got our run of AM2R by Dragon Dart. And we have a couple of people doing commentary on this, so if you guys want to introduce yourself and then count me down when you're ready to go.
Hi guys, I'm Angelus X Runs. I'm going to be doing commentary for this run, and with us today we have a very special guest, Doc M64, creator of AM2R. How are you doing today, man?
Hi, thank you very much for inviting me again. It's an honor to be part of this event, and I guess we're going to be seeing some awesome math skills by this great runner.
Dragon Dart's definitely going to show off some of the awesome stuff that comes in this game, and I think the pleasure is definitely ours to have you along. And Dragon Dart, of course, runner for the 100% category today. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing pretty good now that we've got everything set up. Last 45 minutes have been kind of intense.
Yeah, man. It's like you're sitting there and the jitters are kicking in. It's like, oh man, I want to run.
Well, no, I was more. I was going back and forth trying to.
Yeah, that's true.
Private site trying to get Doc all the information.
Yeah. But everything worked out. Everybody's here. The run's ready to go.
Yes, it is.
All right. So, man with the timer, are you ready?
Yeah, count me down whenever.
Excellent. Go ahead, DD. Let's get this underway.
All right. We are going in 3, 2, 1, and go. Now, I'm just going to let everyone know, I'm probably not going to be doing much talking because this game actually requires quite a bit of focus, so Angelus and Doc will be primary on that.
We'll do our best to keep up with you while you go fast. So, for anybody who's not familiar with AM2R, this is a remake of Metroid 2. A game I hold very dear in my heart. It was my first Metroid game. Doc M, what got you into doing this? What brought this about? I know the game needed a lot of love, man. It needed love. But what got you into doing this particular game as opposed to everything else?
Pretty much I played Zero Mission for the first time, and I ended up wanting for more, you know, like many people. And I thought it would be quite cool to try out myself. It was going to be a remake of a 20-year-old Game Boy game, so how hard could it be? Anything I could do would be potentially looking better. But yeah, the scope of the whole thing escalated quite fast.
And I gotta say, there's a lot of polish on this, like just a heck load of polish that you've put on this game, and there's a lot of attention to detail to try to maintain, especially in the earlier parts of the game, the feel and the look of the original Metroid 2. Has there been any rules that you've been following to kind of, guide yourself into, where you take creative license and where you don't? Has that been like a problem for you over the course of time?
Well, the level layout, it's a little weird. Back then it was determined by the hardware limitations, and they did quite an amazing job with that limited space. But besides from that, I try to be as respectful as possible with the overall layout. You may see that the first area, the Golden Temple, doesn't make much sense if you treat it like a traditional Metroid area. It's very cramped together. You get 2 upgrades, I think 3, very close together, and it's a very different kind of design. But after that area in particular, I start to add at least one particular mechanic that's unique to this game, just to change things a little bit, you know. But I do want people to recognize some landmarks straight away. I think I was kind of successful so far. So yes, the most important and most memorable moments, those are pretty much on the end. So those are going to be the ones that are going to be taking most of my attention.
I can say that I have a feeling that a lot of the people who have played this game or seen this game would probably agree that you've managed to keep a really true sense of feel, especially in the early game on the game as you've gone through it. And there's something different about doing AM2R the way that you did, because you've released the updates as you've gone, which is kind of different for runners that do speedruns, because we're used to getting a title and then saying, okay, this is the title, this is what we have. And I don't know, Dragon Darts, if you have a few moments to speak on this, but how has it been adjusting to changes in gameplay? Like, because there's been gameplay changes, serious gameplay changes over the course of the development of AM2R. How has that affected your runs or your routes? Have you had to like completely reroute several times, or how's that played out for you?
I've had to reroute a number of times. Some of the changes were because I requested them, so I was expecting them. But I can adjust to new routes and rerouting on the fly pretty easily. So it's been an interesting experience, especially since I can kind of influence what direction the game's going to a degree, which is something I've never actually had before with other games.
Which is pretty darn cool, I gotta say, Doc. Getting the community in as you have involved in the game. I'm just gonna go ahead and plug the Metroid 2 Remake site here. Also, thanks for the shout out, Doc. That was really cool of you.
Oh, no problem. And thank you very much for this. It's a very. I try to take into consideration people playing. It's I have a very narrow view about the game. I have a very particular skill set that I do apply when I test all of the enemies, all the level design, all of the bosses, all of the Zeta Metroid, the Gammas, the Alphas, and it's really necessary to see other points of view. Speedrunners, they give you quite an insight of how the entire flow of the levels could be running smoother, with a few changes. But I do emphasize on testing with other people with several different skill sets to see how fun it is to actually learn how to defeat something.
I mean, we're watching Dragon Darts just like rip through this here, of course, but it's a high skill player, somebody who's been playing for a long time. What's been the impact? Because I know that when I first picked up Metroid 2, it was just deathly difficult for 12-year-old me or whatever, but it funneled you along a path and gave you a little bit of freedom. It was nice in that respect. But for new players to something as complex as this, how has the reception been with newer players?
Hang on
Well,
a sec. My
the
internet
first-
is trying to die right now. I'm dropping all the frames right now. I'm just noticing OBS is constantly red.
Yeah, you are skipping some frames there quite a bit. I mean, it's been coming and going. It's been okay, but
I'm looking at OBS. It's not liking anything right now.
People in the chat, the actual game doesn't run like this. Don't be scared.
No, no, it doesn't. Let me think. Okay. What I'm gonna do? I'm gonna try resetting my router real quick to see if that fixes it.
Cool.
So yeah, if you guys could just if you guys just want to keep going while I do that, I'll be right
Sure.
back.
I got a lot of questions loaded, ready to go. So,
What happened?
Right?
so just looking at the site, first of all, a couple of things immediately pop to mind. There's a game that you created
Now the stream can hear you, so you can.
Now this stream can hear us. Okay. Maybe
Oh,
I'll.
nice.
Is it okay if I pipe that question through again there, Doc?
So we were talking about the exact release date of AM2R, but since I only say that once a year, we can continue talking about any other things.
Oh man, the troll is real. So the actual conversation was we were talking about Metroid Confrontation. It was originally meant to be like a test bed to play around with some of the stuff that was going to be put into AM2R. You want to tell us a little bit how that came around?
Well, it was pretty much just a couple of test rooms. While I saw many other fan games doing some concept demos that just one or two rooms, just one or two rooms, and the power-ups just to see if they worked. I wanted to do something different. I just made a couple of interconnected rooms and added an improvised boss battle with Ridley. And that was it. And I had no same mechanics by that time, so it was quite a challenge to reach the end.
And in and of itself,
Okay, hang on. Dude, so hold on a second. Dragon Dark, are we good now? Is microphone still a bit? Okay.
We should be. Let's hope so.
Okay.
It's stable now.
Right. Okay. So yeah, we'll just carry on from there, I guess. So tell me when you want the timer on pause.
Honestly, with how choppy it was, I say we just restart from the beginning.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
that works.
Since I didn't save anyway. Okay, so we'll call Mulligan on that last one. We'll hope my internet holds up for the next hour or so I can finish this thing.
Yeah, sure.
And they're saying up. He can't up my volume. That's on my end. It should be all right for the most part. I'm not going to be doing that much talking anyway. Anyway, start the timer in 3, 2, 1, go for this round 2.
All right, hype train, all aboard. Let's do this.
Round 2.
Round 2. Fight.
Internet, please cooperate. It's been fine right up until the run started.
And that's when things go wrong, right? Marathon lock. Right?
That is when my internet loves to kill itself.
So what has changed in AM2R since last year's showing? Because this was in the Metroid Marathon last year. What have been the major changes in the past year, give or take, that have kind of moved us along in progress?
Well, the most important change for the whole project was it was ported from GameMaker 8.1 to GameMaker Studio. That was a huge undertaking. It was
very big.
It took about 4 or 5 months, mostly to fix all the things that were broken with the transition. And but it did change a lot about the way of organizing the project, the way of working. The performance is a lot better, and it did open up the possibility for porting to other platforms. Right now there is a Linux version that runs on Ubuntu, and it's been working perfectly, as I am told. Someday it might be possible to do a Mac version, and if I manage. Yes, the Mac version is a little bit trickier because I need to actually own a physical Mac, and those things are insanely expensive here. Who knows, maybe other platforms will be considered in the future if I manage to get the licenses for those exports.
On an unrelated topic then, I happen to work in a computer repair shop. Just saying, I'll send you a PM later. Let me know what the hardware requirements are. Because we often have machines left behind, so to speak, that nobody picks up in a year. So, you know, things and stuff,
And-
places.
And okay. we
Basically,
should-
instead of recycling, maybe. But we'll talk later.
I thank you.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
please.
We get stuff like that kicking around, but I won't clutter up the stream with that for now. But
All right.
anyway, we're back underway. Things are going on. I noticed you pumped a lot of new little shortcuts, like very subtle shortcuts into the game. What influenced that choice? Because I know there's a lot of big objects in the way, and it kind of breaks up the game's flow. But how did that get influenced?
That, those things were inspired by the Zero Mission. The way that the level design actually allows you to do low percent runs, and even if there is not that many hidden items in most of the main caves, I do try to add the little things that will improve your route later on. It's mostly with the speed booster thingy. I don't know. It's just
There's more of a convenience and a kind of a quality of life thing as you go through the game, sort of deal.
yes, it's not that it's centered around the speed running, but for those who do like to have a better time on Dark Run, I do have a couple of small shortcuts here and there. I will be adding more, and there's going to be some reshaping of the main caves to allow for more speed booster fun. And since the Shine Spark mechanic has been updated with a little bit more flexibility, this is going to be used much more often.
Speaking of the new Shine Spark flexibility, I'm reading what's new in the newest patch here. New area, Shine Sparks with variable height, analog walking with joypads, and portability for your saves back and forth between other machines, which is pretty awesome.
And that was quite a problem back there. I used a specific command in GameMaker that encrypts your save according to your own computer. So it failed to. It crashed the game if you try to move the save. That was not intended at all. So this pretty much fixes that problem.
That's excellent. And so, what influenced giving Shine Sparks variable heights? That's new.
Yes, actually, the Shine Spark in M2R is part of several puzzles that require you going up an entire block before starting the Shine Spark, and that was the first version of the Shine Spark I made, and some puzzles were designed around that. But I noticed that many opportunities were being missed of making a more frequent use of speed booster. So
And
yes, going for any slope that could be used to keep your spark going. That would be giving you more tools to play around with the level.
yeah.
So at first I was pretty reluctant to let the player speed run everywhere, do speed booster in every place. You may notice that the landing site and the first couple of caves do have irregular terrain. It's not as smooth as all of the other caves. So I will be changing that a little bit. So it's going to be a lot more dynamic to traverse through all the main level structure.
And that's another thing that, you know, as a developer, you kind of got to look at your game and be like, do I really want the player to just rip through things? And by the way, Dragon Darch, everything looks good on your stream now. It's all very clear and smooth.
Yeah, I haven't seen any flame drops. So
Beautiful.
hopefully it stays that way.
Fingers
And
crossed.
you're just cruising along too. And this game has a really fast pace to it as opposed to the original as well. I'm noticing that. You preserved some of the original game's mechanics, from what I can tell here, including Morph Ball being faster than walking.
Yes, but actually that wasn't like that all the time. In the first demo, the Morphle was actually slower than walking. And the overall speed, this is a kind of funny story. I started development of the entire project while I was working on my first recording studio. There were times that there were no customers. There were entire days that I was just sitting there without internet connection. So I started with this, and once I started with the overall engine and the normal states running, crouching, shooting and stuff, that computer wasn't very fast. It didn't have a dedicated video card. So the maximum I could get with this specific platform engine and this whole screen configuration was 50 frames per second. So I adjusted the game feel, the jumping mechanics, the gravity and all of that by running at 50 frames per second. So it was after that, when the first area was done and I was working on the first demo, we did change the computer to something a little bit more powerful, and it actually did reach 60 frames per second.
I hate to interrupt you here for just a second, but we got a new boss here. I just wanted to point this out. This is not in the original game, folks. Original design.
Yeah, the head is a little bit borrowed, but yes, the design is
definitely unique.
Yes,
So
someday
yes.
we are going to be changing things into more original stuff, done custom made. For now, we are trying to just finish the game and we'll go from there.
Yes. But to continue on, you were saying that during downtime you just kind of started with a basic engine and you were having some hardware limitation issues.
Yes, so the whole perception of the overall speed on all the basic mechanics, they were developed by just testing them out on 50 frames per second. So that 10 frames per second difference was quite noticeable when we transitioned to more powerful computer. Most of that stayed intact, so it feels quite faster than Zero Mission.
Oh, here's something different. Oh, go, you got it, bud. So here's another question that's probably come to some people's mind. Are you the only one on the development team? You're the only guy, or are there other people involved in the project?
I'm the only one that works on the project. The actual, the programming part, all of the level design and all of that stuff. But there are many contributors that are doing awesome work with a lot of talent that are in charge of making sprites, making tiles, designing bosses. It's the game did advance a lot thanks to these awesome people. There's one guy that did all the Metroids. This guy is actually from Argentina also. He lives a couple of kilometers from here, and he did all of the redesigns for all of the Metroids.
Oh wow!
And yes, there's a couple of very awesome people helping out. I actually get help with writing also. All of the logbooks are being supervised by someone that writes better than me and is and has actual knowledge of the entire Metroid lore, so I don't write anything inappropriate or conflicting with the timeline.
Which is really cool of you. we all have our specialties.
So yes, I do try to make emphasis on considering the Prime games as part of the timeline. So there is mention of one or two specific things that will appear on Prime in one of the locals. So yes, it's a nice process. The testing team is also invaluable. There's a couple of people that pretty much are dedicated to breaking the game. And those
We need
and
those
those are-
people, man. We need those people.
yes, they are very valuable.
I'm gonna field a question from the chat here from Mug of Bro. Please tell me if he plans on using his newfound skills from working on this project and hit on his original stuff in the future. I'm sure people would be happy to give you money, he says. But is there any part of your skill set that you've learned from doing this that you want to work on your own personal projects in the future?
Well, these projects pretty much grew up as I did grow up with this. When I started, I was just an amateur game designer. I did have a little bit of programming skills, and as the years went by, thanks to the GameMaker script language, I was able to learn proper programming in C#. The structures are very similar, and I am actually working as a programmer right now. So.
Oh, really?
Yes, I am.
Can you divulge any of that information?
Yes, after I had to close my last recording studio because of financial problems, I actually did find work as a programmer in an insurance company.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Yes, it's a very stable work. I work with awesome people. And yes, that's.
I'm glad to hear
I'm
that your
making a
programming
living.
skills are helping out there. It's hard for programmers to get good work these days, unfortunately.
It's yes, and
It's a
in this
dog-eat-dog
country in
world.
particular, it's very, very difficult. It's easy to find a job as a programmer here. Getting paid properly, that's another story.
So, two questions, and I'm gonna ask the two controversial questions now. You joked earlier, but a little bit of a troll. Do you have an estimated release date? Because it's on everybody's mind by this point. I know that's always really hard to say as somebody who used to program. It's really hard to set a date on a project this large. And it's a game, man. It's huge. It's very complicated to work on. So, any ideas?
No, the thing is, the size of the game doesn't matter. What does matter is knowing how many hours per week you can actually dedicate to this. If I were living off this, I could actually know how much effort I can put into this.
Very true.
But since there's quite a huge random factor here, making things complicated, I was able to get this latest demo in time for this. When I actually learned about this whole event, we kind of rushed out to finish all of the contents and all of the bugs regarding these contents to be finished in about 1 month. So most of the stuff was already done, the bosses were already working with many missing things. The area was already laid out, the scripts were already working. So yes, it's possible that by the end of the year, Area 5 might be finished. Maybe not in its entirety and with the level of polish that I would like, but it will be done. And after that, it's only boss battles.
Yeah, and it is a labor of love.
Yes, Area 6 only features Omega Metroids. There's no hidden items, no special thingies, no weird controllable robots that are going to be giving me headaches with those mechanics. Nothing else, just the Omegas. And the final place, the final area is going to be also very simple. Most of the effort is going to be on the Queen and on the final sequence with the Metroid.
Which I honestly cannot wait to see, and I'm sure that that is going to be reverberated throughout the community as it comes out. It's like, oh my god, Queen.
Yes, it's going to be quite a challenge. You know, all of this is building up to something that's going to be. It has to be insanely awesome. You know, all of these boss battles and huge polished gameplay, they are going to be leading to something that needs to be a proper climax. And I need to admit, it's going to be quite tricky.
So the other controversial question, and I won't touch too long on it, of course, is, and last year you gave us an answer, so I'm going to ask it again. In the past year, for the good or the bad, has Nintendo contacted you regarding this project and asked you to stop or do something else as a result?
No, not at all.
No news is good
contact.
news. I think that was the quote from last year.
So yes, I don't know. I'm pretty sure if people at Nintendo actually know about this project, I'm pretty sure this is not going to be bad publicity for the franchise at all.
No, I honestly agree. If anything, this is bolstering their franchise and showing it off in a very positive light. So, congratulations, by the way, because you've really achieved it. I think everybody I've ever spoken to who's seen this game has had nothing but positive things to say about it. So you're doing a great job at creating a game that I think people will love and enjoy for years to come after you're done with it. And the amount of work you put into it really shows. Like, really shows.
Well, thank you very much.
How you doing over there, Dragon Dark?
I'm doing pretty good. That Gamma
Your crew.
Gamma fight was a little slow, but everything else is not really good so far.
Apparently, Samus is allergic to green plants.
Apparently. Little spiky green plants. Alright, let's take a quick look here. If anybody in the chat has any questions, go ahead and post those up. I'll see if I can get those to the runner and to Doc M as well. So there was a different approach taken to boss mechanics and AI in this game. The way that even alphas move is very different, and from what I understand, it was also very different from the original iteration of AM2R as opposed to what you're seeing now. How's that changed over the years, and how did you go about trying to make it true to the original while still having something, you know, compelling for a player that's not, you know, a Game Boy game?
Well, Metroids were actually fairly easy regarding the AI because I actually didn't like the AI at all of the original Metroids. Alphas were very predictable in their patterns, and they were actually not that much of a challenge. Just like pop it with a couple of missiles, make them go wherever you want to lead them, and that's it. The other Metroids, they are actually quite. They do all rely on your position. So again, it's fairly easy to lead them to where you want them to be. And I wanted to make something a little bit more interesting. You know, like treating them like boss fights. So yes, I started from scratch and just imagine that I haven't played Metroid 2. I imagined how would this particular creature behave if it were able to float and try to attack some threat that's going to kill you.
Excellent. I got a couple of quick questions here.
Alright.
Good question from Test Zero. Doc M, will you add a mode to play the game in monochrome?
Okay.
Wow, that was a really good Teresa fight.
Oh, dude.
Wow.
That was one of the best I've ever had with that guy.
That is sharp, man. So
I
fast.
actually feel sorry for the poor guy.
I mean, and I do apologize to
No.
everybody for not getting Dragonar in on the conversation
This is revenge, you know. He's getting payback for the other three, so that pretty much back to the other one.
But yes, I do apologize to the chat for not getting Dragondark in as much as we'd probably like. This game is very intense, it's very fast-paced, and it requires a tremendous amount of concentration to pull through. So I'm trying not to disturb him too much as we go. Anything you did want to talk about, Dragondark?
No, you guys go ahead and keep going. Although, actually, I will have something to say in just a moment.
Cool.
We call it... Ah, I missed it. I was gonna say mock ball, but I missed it.
That would have been
Aw.
sick, dude.
And I missed it a second time when I retried.
Good clear through that room, though. Or the two rooms, actually. Another question that was sent from B Sent. Doc, why do you put so much effort into your April Fool jokes?
I don't know. Actually, I don't like the real life April Fool. The one here is on December the 30th, and it's called the Day of the Innocent. And I'm not a fan of practical jokes, you know. But I like when I like the high level of production that some places, some sites, some games, and other stuff they do dedicate to April Fool. Google has some awesome stuff. IGN, I don't know. The Metroid database made some awesome stuff too. So it's a nice excuse to have fun. Actually, it was quite interesting to write the Other M remake. That was just funny to write it, you know.
Well, you have fun with it, right? It's that's the important part. You're making people smile. You're having fun. So just gonna check something. So, Gundam Torizo. That's what I've always called him. Gundam Torizo. First of all, does he have a real name? And also, what was the inspiration for that? How did that come about?
That I actually can't remember. That the concept is many years old.
It came to him in a dream.
That's a white card answer. But no, the sprites were actually produced about 4 years ago, I think, and they were staying there unused until I actually got the time to focus on that particular boss. I actually can't remember. I do have I don't think I have with me the actual paper. I did back in the day. I did sketch the bosses and ideas on paper. I'm not sure if I have them with me anymore. But no idea. It was something that has always been part of the project as something cool to try out.
Also brings us to another thing you've added into the game here. There's a little mini game here with carrying super missiles. This has always made me like. I love this little thing, by the way. It looks so fun to play with, and it genuinely is. What was the inspiration for adding something like this into it, like a remote-controlled, you know, mech that you can kind of like move things around with?
Now, the actual first concept of this room actually was going to be very different. It was going to be mostly horizontal, and Samus would actually step into that same device, but she was going to be controlling some sort of floating crane that will be able to pick up boxes and pick up enemies and other stuff to clear the way. So you would be having a certain control over the level layout. It turns out to be even more boring than this is. So it was very slow paced. The collision with the boxes was very glitchy. It was a disaster. It was terrible. I wasn't even able to actually make a proper sprite for the plane. You can imagine that.
Yeah, it can be tough to do something with like a lot of mechanical moving membranes and stuff like that.
The collisions also are a little bit complex. This particular engine works perfectly when you have everything aligned to the grid. If it's something that fits into a 16 by 16 pixel width and height box, it reacts properly. You add anything in between that and it messes up greatly. So it was giving you that kind of options, being able to place boxes everywhere. It led to glitches that were way too difficult to solve.
Touching back on a question from earlier, we got interrupted by awesome Gundam Torizo. And the monochrome thing is that a thing? Like to skin that down? Because I remember in Confrontation, you could change like the way that the game was skinned. Is that something that was ever in the works for this particular game?
For this particular game, no. The way that the Game Maker Studio works is completely different. I'm no longer loading the suit sprites from the hard drive right now. They are all integrated in the same texture page. So modding, if it's ever going to be a part of AM2R, it's going to be very different from Confrontation. There are plans for customizability for certain things, maybe suit colors, maybe the morpho trails, but yes, there are plans for that. About the monochrome, there have been certain experiments with shaders that might make it someday.
Yeah, I guess
it's
just playing with
possible.
the shader effect could maybe mock the kind of give you a mock monochrome effect. Yeah.
Yes, I was able to replicate the Game Boy palette. Some things look extremely dark. I might have to force some sort of white outline around Samus. But yes, if I am able to solve some small technical issues about it, the monochrome thing might be a reality soon-ish.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for the answer there. I appreciate that. We got another one here from WolfGod64. Hey Doc, will you ever make a short game featuring this hopping robot?
Come on, I make awesome bosses and the skipping thingy gets its own spin-off.
Oh boy. It's great. I don't know, people like it. It's a cute little part of the game that, you were saying, the little chain thing wouldn't have been as fun. But I like this little hopping thing. It's cute, it's cuddly, it's like Ediku's and Decoras and stuff like that from Super Metroid. People have to cling to these things. That's the way it works.
Alright, I will consider it.
Oh boy. So again, you're preserving something else with the game here. As you go deeper and deeper into the planet, you're getting darker and darker textures. The mood of the game is very preserved. That feeling of being alone as you delve deeper into the planet has been preserved. How difficult was that from a testing standpoint? Because, you can have a vision, but from a testing standpoint, how difficult was it to get that to review the way you wanted it in your game? And that, people received it relatively well?
You mean about the overall mood of the entire game?
Yeah, the depth where as you're just delving into this planet you're all alone and it just gets more and more lonely as you go, to preserve that.
Well, it's pretty much a combination of level design, all of these lighting engine tricks, and playing around with the contrast, the landing site. Whenever you start and see the whole the horizon and all of the bright clouds above you, they have a very distinct contrast, and being being noticing of these changes as you go deeper, that was something that was planned from the very first start. Um, but yes, all of this contributes to that design. When I lay out the plans for what areas are going to be featuring what tile set is going to be in this area, what kind of cave there is going to be in this other area. There's also things that are going to be affecting the overall mood. You know, also how red is going to be displaced, how much is going to be lit by the lava that's going to be here. Is it going to be requiring reshading the tiles to see if it reflects this light source from below, or is it going to be working properly like it is right now? Are there going to be any smoke effects or any particle effects on the place? Is it going to be dark? Is it going to be lit by any artificial light sources or not? Is the place going to be overrun by creatures? Is it going to be lonely? What part it all kind of has some sort of plan. The standard route kind of follows a plan that actually includes the amount of tension that the player should be having by this time, the amount of action that's going to be happening in that particular area, and you may notice that some places are more desolate and quiet than others. That's kind of intended. It's just to have a break from all of the action and all the puzzling and all the insanely difficult Metroid fighter that you just had. I tried to see it. Have you played Another World or Out of This World?
I have not, unfortunately.
That is a masterpiece, and in one documentary, Mr. Eric Chahi, the creator, he says that his game was planned like a movie. He had a chart written in paper where he actually was drawing the curve of how intense the scenes are going to be, and there's quite a lot of action followed by some quiet time, and quiet time is actually very important in any
Wow. Nice, Dragonor. Great chain sparking there. I'm trying to keep track of all sorts of different things at once. Also, your
we're casually speaking, and this guy is doing some awesome stuff in the background.
Yeah. The gamma work he was doing earlier was absolutely fantastic. Oh man, getting these guys lined up, eh? So this is the first the first spot in the game where you encounter two at once. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. And it adds a whole other depth to how you're going to be organizing and doing setups, because most of the time, even in Metroid 2 Classic, dare I say Classic, it had this sort of, we have these setups that work very well, or most of the time, for trying to attack them, take them on. But when you have two targets, the level of randomness or entropy, I guess would be the better word, that comes out of that, it's got to be difficult to create setups that are effective against multiple targets. Dragonor, have you had any trouble like trying to come up with on multiple targets and stuff like that? Has that been more of a challenge than like single target bosses?
I hate those twin Metroids. They are the worst thing to try and take out.
To make things worse, when you kill one of them, the other remaining one automatically changes its behavior to be more aggressive. So if you have something going on, it's very subtle, but yes, it does happen.
And Mock Drum says it best. Oh my god, these shine sparks are so awesome! So we're going drilling. Spelunking.
I'd still love to know who these mining devices were made for if they activate on Morph Ball.
I do have a theory about the jaws of things and obsessions with balls. Since many things are activated with spheres, it is actually possible. I actually haven't found yet any place to actually try to fit this explanation in any of the logs, but it might be possible that the Jozo in several of their artifacts and devices could be using some sort of control spheres or some sort of fuel battery with the shape of spheres. So
there is a running theme of spheres in Metroid all around, especially with item upgrades and stuff like that.
Yes, but there is also in the Prime games there are many devices that are activated by spheres or do have a sphere shape hologram or stuff. It is possible that some sort of device control thingy or power battery thingy would be shaped by spheres. And it could be that they do make the passages and tubes and all of that, those pipe thingies to actually deliver those batteries or control devices to wherever they need to be used. So could be some sort of utilitarian approach to that.
Also, everybody,
If
I've been
Samus-
plugging this. Oh, go ahead.
No, if Samus just happened to roll into a ball and act herself as a battery or control sphere in these devices, it could be a huge coincidence or some sort of, I don't know, utility. Samus could be having some sort of, I don't know, janitor suit and she does maintenance for stuff. It is possible.
Oh,
Here's the
Samus,
human
regional,
orphan.
regional
What do we give her? Do we have a combat suit for her, or do we give her the janitor suit? Give her the janitor suit.
It's
knows?
gonna be Samus does Space Quest 2. Space Janitor. If anybody remembers that game, you get points. Just saying. Oh gosh. So I've been plugging it as we've been going. Another Metroid 2 remake can be picked up at metroid2remake.blogspot.ca. Take a good look at that game. The game is fantastic, as you can clearly see. Just want to plug that in there. You can download the demo, play it yourself, plug in a controller, have fun with it. Also, our runner today is Dragon Dart SDA. Check him out. Linked him in the chat just a moment ago. We are... Where are we now? I'm trying to figure out where we're at here.
I believe we are going to the tower.
Yeah.
We're just entering Area 4.
So this is the final area of the game as it stands, correct?
Yes.
And
It's a fairly short area, but it has some pretty unique and entertaining moments.
I get to try out my new Zeta Strath that I discovered like 2 hours ago.
good shots there.
I do hope I pull this off correctly.
Don't worry, I know you will.
Also, I really like the way that you shaped that room there where you could just spark straight up as opposed to all the convoluted stuff that was brought about with Metroid 2 itself. Alright, here we go.
Nope, I did not pull it off correctly. This is a slow way.
Now, if you find these setups irritating, you should have tried the first couple of versions. They were impossible. I was able to beat them because I'm the creator, but once I showed this to other human beings, it was an exercise in frustration. It was terrible.
Designed for taskers only, tool assisted only, guys.
Pretty much. I knew all the openings I had, and I actually was able to beat it. But other people they were stun locked all the time. It was terrible.
I gotta say, they definitely feel like they have more style to them more unique. It's a much more unique look. It's got like the Zetas have their own personality, something that they didn't really have too much of in my in the original Metroid 2. It was just like a little Metroid that kicked its legs, little sprightly thing. Like,
The original was kind of cute. I actually wanted to have it. But since the Omega were kind of shaped like a T-Rex, it would be quite cool to see this shaped like a raptor. So that was pretty much the base guideline for the spider to work with.
There we go again. It has to be one of those things where the Zetas kind of looked like you wanted to hug them all the time. They're little cute creatures. They don't look intimidating until they try to, you know, suck your brains out. That's a thing.
It could be an
question.
interesting concept, you know, something extremely cute that wants to kill you.
It's like, hi! Well, they did that in Other M too with Baby Ridley.
Yes.
Yeah, and my girlfriend comes over to me the first time she sees this game and goes, "Oh, he's so cute." I was like, no, he's not cute. You have no idea. And then of course they grow up into these in this game. The Zetas grow up to be these giant daddy Metroids. It's like, oh god. So, a quick question from Sean Dude 106. You had a music studio, is that correct?
I used to have a recording studio. Right now I'm just having my PC and Cubase in a small room at home. But yes, I used to work as a sound designer, and I used to record plenty of indie rock albums.
Excellent. So the question actually was, and you answered it with Cubase, what program do you use to make music? Do you also do the AM2R music with Cubase?
Yes, everything's done with Cubase. I have a couple of select BST instruments, and they are not the fanciest ones, but they are the ones I actually know best. So far I was able to make pretty much any kind of sound I actually wanted, and the Prime has a very distinct set of sounds. So far I think even if there is room for improvements in many of the tracks, I try to be consistent with all of these sound choices. So yes, sometime I will be doing the Metroid Fight song from scratch to make it sound a little bit more like the original. But yes, Cubase and a couple of virtual instruments.
Okay, looks like we're going for a second setup here too.
Yeah, I let him break the floor out, which is really bad in that fight.
There you go. Good recovery, man.
Down 2 supers though, so that's kind of a problem. But I can make this next one work.
Also, good work with the dark rooms up at the top of this spire here.
I hated that room in the original so much.
I think we all did, runners and otherwise. There are rooms up top where you're going to get a what's it called? An energy tank, and you can't see anything at all. So the work with the shading or with the lighting effects around the morph ball really, I think, helps work that. And you also kind of made it into more of a game. It wasn't just it's not just a hole in the wall that you kind of fall into. So it was more. It seems like you paid a lot of attention to that. It shows you probably also hated it in your own playthroughs.
Yes, I despised that place, but we all did.
Feature question from Terracore. Doc, is the medals are the medals going to be in the final release?
Yes, there's plans for achievements, and there's already a list of crazy things to do. That are insanely difficult. But yes, there is going to be. I'm not sure what the name is going to be for them, if just achievements, medals, or whatever. But yes, there is going to be.
Excellent. Everybody loves a little bit of achievements here and there. It's fun to collect them, do things that are not necessarily the intended way of doing things. It's got to be my favorites, is when it's not just like, you know, because we speedrun, but to just, oh, beat it this fast, or kill this many, or kill all of... It's stuff that you would normally do, but to kill something in a way you wouldn't normally have to, or something like that, that's always been my favorite kind of achievement.
Yes, the confrontation already has a medal achievement system, or whatever you want to call it.
It sure
And some of them are insanely difficult, and people do manage to pull it off. Anyway.
It was really cool to see an achievement system in something like Confrontation as well. We're descending. We're going down. Everyone.
The elevator's
Wait.
the one break I get in the entire run.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is a really long elevator, yo. It keeps going and going and going.
I had to add an elevator somewhere, otherwise it wouldn't be a Metroid game.
That spark I just pulled off is really, really tight, by the way.
Very, very awesome, man. Power bombs!
What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing at all. Oh god! Everybody get out! Okay, so for anybody who doesn't know this yet, this is not the original. There's no planet explosions in Metroid 2. See, I haven't seen this part of the game, by the way. So this is all new to me. This is really cool. So I'm gathering the general idea here, and you're conveying this instead of just telling the player. Conveyance is really, really important here. You're showing the power cell temperature, but you're not telling them anything other than that. Here we go! Spoiler alerts, by the way.
Huge spoiler alert.
Look at that! That elevator spark, man. Holy jeez. But yeah, through conveyance, you're telling the player, get the hell out of here. It's just power cell temperature. Oh dear, something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but when that bar fills up, I don't want to know. Also, the door is broken. Holy crap.
And all of the explosion and red screen and all of that
Yeah.
to give you the idea.
And still, continued use of power bombs.
She never learned the lesson.
Nope. Well, that looks like it's bad news. Okay. Wow. Just wow. That was epic.
That must hurt.
So, for anybody here who's just tuning in, we have Dragon Dark SDA, who is running another Metroid 2 remake 100%, and we also have on the line Doc M64, and I'm your commentator, and JealousX runs. This is my first time seeing this part of the game, and holy crap, man, that's awesome.
You had to try it out.
Well, it's my first time seeing this bit of the game. I played it like. I'm gonna go ahead and say, you know, Area 1 and Area 2, maybe. I think that's all that was launched. And then last year I watched the marathon run with DD as well. And I was like, holy crap, Gundam Chozo! And now this year, we've got giant Mecha Chozo shooting stuff out of his arms and an explosion, and Samus gets knocked on her backside. And you're like, oh my god, is she dead? And no, she's not dead. This is... How do you keep coming up with this stuff, man? This is awesome. The hype train is real.
Yes, I try to keep things interesting, you know.
Well, you're definitely keeping them fresh with a genre that has been, long drawn out. You're using all the tools that you have at your disposal in order to make the game more than it, it originally was. And I think it really, really shows just how much effort you're putting into this. And it looks like we got another boss coming up here. Or at least it looks like a boss.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, even there is a couple of things that make the game awesome in this area. But for everything that makes it, there's plenty of ideas that were scrapped. Some of those actually were tried on the engine and were a complete failure.
That's something that happens a lot in game development, unfortunately.
Yes, in this case, I do have the freedom of actually not having to meet a certain deadline, so I can actually experiment and only focus on the things that work. But yes, this particular boss was quite interesting. After the spider made, yeah, kind of like Radius boss.
Yeah.
But right after the sprite was done and I assembled it and placed it in the engine, one of the artists, the guy that drew this entire boss, said this is exactly like one of the bosses on Teslagram.
Yes.
You played?
Absolutely. All I can think of is like Ikaruga, Gradius, Teslagram. All these games come to mind. Bullet hell games. Just so much fun. But you're doing it in a vertical environment, playing as Samus Aran. Like, and it seems like it looks difficult, but as I'm watching this, you break off plates and parts of it, and you get power-ups as you go. So you're not starving the player for resources, which is really important, I think.
Yes, it does keep things going. I do give the player a lot of misses when you destroy one of the parts of the shield. So supplying must not be an issue. Dodging all the shit that is being fired, that should be your main concern.
Wow. That was a really bad play, by the way.
Still, man, you pulled through. That is good. That is good. I guess the
You make
obvious
the
question...
boss look more intimidating.
There was a question earlier from the M Sanity. Yeah, is there somewhere we can donate? I gotta be honest, it's on a couple of people's minds. It's not the first time I see it in the chat.
Why don't we wait for the game to be finished and maybe I could start with some other project that you guys would be want to be part of.
Right now.
Oh.
Sorry, I didn't give more of a heads up for that.
Yeah, it's cool. I was hanging around. It was 55/7.
Excellent run, man.
That was decent for a one-shot run.
No reset run, baby. So before we wrap up, I'm just going to go ahead and plug Metroid 2 Remake.blogspot.ca. Another Metroid 2 remake by Doc M64. And also our runner, Dragon Arch. Thank you very much. Well done, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That probably
Awesome
went
run,
as well as I was
congratulations.
expecting.
Welcome to marathons. So I thank you very much, both of you, for coming and joining us today. A big thank you, Doc, for coming out for another year and coming and enjoying some time with us. We really appreciate it. It's really an honor to have you around.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to be here with you guys. You guys are awesome, and the way you pulled off this entire huge event is it's great. So it's been quite a lot of fun.
And we look forward to what you come up with in the future. Also, I'll be firing off a mail to you a little bit later, probably tomorrow after all this fantastic stuff is done and over with. Maelstrom, are you there?
Yeah, thanks guys. We're gonna move to setup now and get ready for Metroid 1.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of the marathon. I'll see you guys for Metroid Other M tomorrow morning.
Great. Thanks for coming in and doing commentary for me, Jealous.
My pleasure, man. Anytime.
Okay. Dragon Jack, do you want some time before Metroids? Because you're commentating for that. Do you want any time to chill out, or are you good to go straight away pretty much?
Just let me get the stream open and I'll be good to go.
Yeah, sure. Okay.